So what we want to talk about today is we're going to talk about sites selected for delegated access. And in the description was mentioned app folder for app-only access. I'm not able to demo the app folder stuff today for a few reasons. Don't worry about that. It's coming very, very soon. But we're going to look at the sites selected for delegated access today. So I'm really excited to introduce this capability. It's been long asked for, and it really helps increase the overall security of the service by allowing the sites selected access, but with the user presence. And so that means the app can never do more than the current user can do, which is a little bit better for security. So I want to walk through that real quick. And the first thing we're going to look at is just that, hey, I here have this website and I can access it in SharePoint as my user, and that's great. The next thing we want to do is set up an application. We've all done this before. I'm pretty sure, but I'm going to make my test app. We're going to do a spa. This doesn't matter because we're actually going to use this one, but we'll just say local host. We're going to register that application, and we're going to get this app ID. Now, I'm going to put a special little link here in the chat. If I could find the chat here. And so what you're going to see here is, so this scope is, due to some timing, of course, for my demo, is not quite ready. It's not available yet in the admin center, but it's coming very, very, very soon, governed only really now by some rollout schedules. So it's coming very, very soon. But for now, I've got this app, and one of the things I need to do is under authentication real quick. I'm just going to check access tokens and ID tokens. I'm going to hit save.
Patrick,
yes.
Please, can you zoom in a bit? Because again, you're doing things in admin UI, and I don't think anybody can. Excellent.
Sure,
Thank you.
Of course.
Just making it easier to follow.
Of course. I've checked these two boxes here, access tokens and ID tokens. A new feature, I'm sure. But one of the things, I don't have a way to really zoom in on the address bar here, but what I can do is let's get a notepad and let's do a zoom in, view, zoom in. So what we've got, just for to allow folks to do some temporary testing before it is available fully in the admin center to select, is you could use this URL, which I pasted in the chat, which has your tenant ID is this parameter here, and then your client ID is the parameter here. And you'll see that is the client ID from, let me get back to, I don't know if I can get back to my test app from here. I'm gonna have to zoom out. So there we go. So my application ID is here, and that's this 6939, etc. And so if I go back to my window here, you can see I've got the ID there, response type token, and you can see I put the scope in here as graph.microsoft.com/sites.selected. And so I'm going to paste that URL into my browser. Ooh, Gandalf-Balrog relationship explained. So neat. What we can see here, and let me try and zoom in some more. So the permissions requested, you've seen this dialog, I imagine, a lot, but one of the things that's new is you're accessing the selected sites on behalf of the signed in user. So this is actually the delegated access we're enabling here for this scenario. And I'm going to consent to all the apps, and I'm going to accept. And this URL trick just allows you to do this before it is available in the service. So ignore this. This is it trying to redirect to my local host app with an access token and so forth. But we're going to kind of skip all this, and we're going to use an app I've already created here just to make things a little bit easier. So I'm going to try and switch over to a little bit of demo app. I'm going to demo this using a little library called PnP.js that you might have heard of. And I've set up this other client ID, which is the one I'd already set up, but I would put my client ID that I just set up there. We're going to use the built-in PnP.js SPA testing app, and we're going to use this as my login authority tenant there. And what I'm trying to do is make a request to this site. And if you trust me, and I hope you do, that URL, and let me log in, is going to this website here. So it's the site ID for this site collection. And if we go over here to the SPA, And if you'll notice, I've got the serve running in the background. But if I refresh here, you can see access denied. And if we do this and go to network, try again, go to network, here we go. We're going to go get our bear token here, and we're going to go to jwt.ms, and that just exposes the token. But I just want to point out here real quick, this is a delegated token. We've got user and app information in this token. So this is a delegated token we're trying to use, and we're getting access denied. So the next step is just to go, and we're going to grant this access here through Graph Explorer. And this is exactly like the process for, first I'm going to do a get. We can see there's no permissions in the collection. And this is the exact same process for Sites.Selected that you're familiar with, except the app we've created happens to have the delegated scope. So there's no difference in this call. I think that's really helpful. But you can see I'm just doing the exact same thing I would for Sites.Selected application only, but for delegated. And I'm going to run that query, and I get back the stuff I get back. And now if we do a get on permissions, you'll see my app is listed there as you expect. And if I go back to this page, I now get data from the site. So just that easily, I'm able to enable the Site.Selected delegated permissions to the site. And so that works just like Site.Selected without delegated. And just to make sure, whoop, that's not what I wanted to do. Just to make sure that there's no tricks up my sleeve, I'll show that the token that did work is still a delegated token. So it's got the user and the app ID in there. And that works now to get us access to this site's details on our testing page. So you can see the details come back. And just as with Site.Selected app only, if I get the ID, which is a very easy to remember string here, and I run a delete there, you'll see that, let me get rid of this, and let me go back to get and run that. You'll see nothing back in that collection, and my test app is back to access denied, so working as you would expect. So this is a great new capability that will really allow you to permission your apps a little more securely by limiting both the site that the app would have access to, as well as not allowing the app to do any more than the current users can do. Current users can do. So this makes things a little bit more secure in your environment, and is a big piece of our journey towards getting everything to support application and delegated as much as possible. And so, as I mentioned, this very similar thing is coming for app folders will support application only. Previously, that was delegated only. It actually was the other way. And then one final note for right now, and we'll see, but these calls are going to be supported. The Site.Selected delegated will be supported through the Microsoft Graph only for initial launch. So we're going to look at supporting that as a first step, and then we'll do our best to maybe expand that support depending on the feedback we get and how things go there. So I'm going to glance very quickly at the chat to see if there's any, let's see, questions here.
I think Ralph's question is related on the context of the permissions. So for example, per folder, per list, just to recap on what you were going through.
Per folder. No, so this is Site.Selected still, but it is Site.Selected plus user. So it is Site.Selected delegated mode. So it is at the site collection level. The work we're doing to enable permissioning at lower levels is still in progress. It's related to this, but not the same. So that is still coming, but has been delayed slightly from last year. So we are still working on that. But so this is all site collection level. Will this work with the Microsoft Graph Search API? Not in the way I think you imagine right now today. We had to get this out, and now the next step is to work with the search folks to consume this permission data. Site.Selected works with the search API, but you're not going to get per user results with Site.Selected at this time. So that's work we need to get as well in place. So I'm looking back up the questions. It's delegated permissions. It's the intersection of permissions between the user and the application. And then, the same permissions for site selected are read, edit, or read, write, and full control. And then as well, we're working on an owner or manage permission in there as well. And then I think that's all the questions from my demo.
Yep. And again, can we one more time? You just said it, but again, because this is complicated quite often to understand. So basically, the new thing here is that the user permissions count. So you don't have to grant only app-only permissions per site collection. Now you can say app-only permissions plus the user permissions to count. So therefore, it's more secure. And even though application has been granted high level of permission, but as the user permissions do count as well, even though application has high permission, user cannot access information across the boundary.
Exactly right. So the way to think about that is I could give the application full control to a site collection, but if the current user has only read access, they would only be able to read data, not edit anything, even though the application could, with a user that had full control, access everything or do everything.
you.